evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. We're just over 24 hours away from WWE's Backlash Premium Live event, live from Puerto Rico, and tonight is looking like a stacked SmackDown go-home show, also taking place from Puerto Rico. Cody Rhodes will be telling us what he wants to talk about. Will it be Roman Reigns, the fact he's been drafted to Raw, or more likely, the fact he's facing the Beast, Brock Lesnar, in 24 hours? The OC will be taking on the Viking Raiders, and Shinsuke Nakamura will be taking on Karrion Kross. Joining me to talk about all of this and more, we firstly have the co-host of the podcast, Clark Taylor. How are you today, Clark?
I'm doing super well, and not to drop an inside joke out of the gates here, but this is I think the first instant replay I've seen since I've started doing the daily broadcast, and I will say both times you nailed it, Ben, on the cold open. Given where we're at right now, for those that don't know, we did rip the cold open not live, correct? I mean, it was hilarious, but you nailed it both times.
It was not live, just the button wasn't hit. So
that was impressive.
Live to us.
Clark, you actually don't know the funniest thing about this, right? And maybe you don't either, Anthony. Maybe you weren't on either. But I think it was Monday's show. I did the exact same thing. So this is 2 shows in a row where I've done the exact same thing. So when that initially happened,
I put show notes in the comments yesterday. So,
when it originally happened, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, guys, we're not live." We're 2 minutes into the show a couple of minutes ago. I kind of thought that you guys knew that, but no, you didn't. No. This was 2 shows in a row where I've messed up. But yeah,
I was locked in. I was like, okay, he's gonna introduce me in a second, and then I saw the look on your face, and I'm like, what is going on? What happened? And I looked up and saw the top corner, and it said "Go Live" still, and I'm like,
It was not great. It was not great. Yeah, it was Chaos and Kobe on with me the other day. But you've seen him by now for the people who are watching on YouTube. But also joining us today, we have Anthony Ricciardi. How are you, Anthony?
Doing all right. It's a pretty good day. Sold Separately finally hit the airwaves. So hopefully we'll be doing more of that.
Yeah, go check that out. Great call, Anthony.
Yeah, that is live on the Wrestling Republic YouTube channel now, guys. If you haven't checked out Sold Separately, it's a wrestling collectible show by both Clark and Anthony, and it's a banger of an episode, so I really recommend you guys check it out. Of course, after the daily finishes, watch the daily first, but then make sure you guys go and check that out. But before we get into tonight's episode of SmackDown, the first thing that I want to talk about is the press conference, the Backlash Press Conference, which happened just a couple of hours ago now. And damn, the crowd for this press conference in Puerto Rico were insane. They really might give us UK fans a run for our money. But there was a few little interesting things about this. The first one being that, of course, Zelina Vega says she's from, she's from Puerto Rico. So it's, kind of a hometown type thing. And she didn't get booed. But the crowd were absolutely rooting for Rhea Ripley. They were all chanting "Mommy." It was just everyone was behind Rhea. In the end, Dominic got some heel heat. Ray got some, babyface praise. And then the crowd did slightly go towards Zelina a little bit more. But at the start, they were all Rhea Ripley, right? So this is a crowd which I think might be a little unpredictable, which will certainly make for entertaining TV and a premium live event over the next couple of days. But then the big headline coming out of the press conference is something that I am not happy about at all. And that is that Triple H has announced how the new World Heavyweight Champion will be crowned. It will be a tournament with one person from Raw facing one person from SmackDown for the championship to find the inaugural champion. And I just don't understand it. I truly don't. Because you're just doing a brand split, right? And this tournament started Monday on Raw. And you're going to have 2 triple threat matches with the winners then facing each other in the main event of Raw. Same on SmackDown, right? So it's not like SmackDown stars are going to be on Raw and vice versa, right? It is just going to be at the Night of Champions premium live event in Saudi Arabia where the two will clash. But you've got to think to build up that match that the Raw star is going to be on SmackDown and the SmackDown star is going to be on Raw. this is meant to be the Raw Championship. Why is SmackDown now involved? This is a brand new brand split. The brand split's literally starting on Monday, and you're ruining it night one. Well, not ruining it. That's me being a little bit extreme and over the top. But night one, you're kind of making it less hard, I guess. Less hard of a brand split. It annoys me. It truly, truly does. But Clark, I'll head to you first. What's your thoughts on this? Does it really bother you that SmackDown are getting involved, or do you understand why they're doing it? Could this perhaps be a way for Cody Rhodes, for SmackDown Superstar to win it, and then for SmackDown and Raw to do a trade where Cody goes to SmackDown? But it just seems like it's overly complicated. What's your thoughts, Clark?
So for me, I agree with basically everything you said on the brand split needed to be. I've been preaching this for a few weeks, like almost to a fault. I've said it too many times. Like it needs to be definite. It needs to be real. The draft needs to feel relevant. And as soon as we come out of the draft and then devalue what we saw last week, it's not like people forget. That's a super bad quote, but people don't forget. And we just watched the draft last week and lines were drawn and we had Raw talent and SmackDown talent. Now it's a little muddier. I don't love it. The only thing I can justify it with if I had to, and this isn't even, I think right, but I think this is what it came down to if I had to guess. And that's that Triple H looked at it and goes, oh crap, we've got 3 weeks left till Backlash. And that's not that many weeks. And we need more time to be able to build these storylines outside of just the matches to get to that final one. And unfortunately, I wish that I wasn't saying this, but I think that there wasn't a definitive plan out of the gates. And it was kind of like, hey, this is what we're left with. And if we're going to tell any kind of story, the matches have to happen on both shows. We have to give up time on SmackDown. We have to give up time on Raw. We have to figure this out because we maybe didn't think about this during the few weeks leading up to the draft and past them. Given all that's been on everybody's plate in wrestling of late, it makes sense. But I have no other explanation for why you would have qualifying matches on SmackDown for a title that is clearly built and branded towards Raw. It's not the Raw title, it's the world title, but it's the world title we see on Mondays.
Yeah,
and that's what should have been the plan from the beginning.
Yeah, and Triple H even said in this press conference that it will be a Raw exclusive title. But yeah, carry on, Clark.
So thank you, by the way, too, because I was going to ask. I'm like, so if someone from SmackDown wins it, that means they'll go to Raw. That's I can gloss over that, and I think planning wise.
I don't even think it's a case of they go to Raw. That's a confusing thing. That's why a lot of people on wrestling Twitter are giving Triple H credit for this already, saying he's listened to the fans. People are complaining that Cody Rhodes wasn't on SmackDown. So guess what he's going to do? He's going to give it to a SmackDown star, and then they're going to do some type of trade to figure it out. I think that's lazy booking. If true, I can't believe it. But yeah, what were you going to say, Clark?
No, just I think that at the end of the day, Cody Rhodes is logical, but the consolation prize thing is scary. I don't think he should win it first. And I've thought that from the beginning. I'm with you. I think where they're at now, just there's not enough. We complain about Raw being 3 hours, but the way that Raw is booked, there's not a way to have a Raw where you end up with explosive storytelling all around this story. And then there's a mid card or a lower card that exists on Night of Champions. That's the largest dilemma I think that they've run into, and I think that this type of booking where they have to use time on SmackDown is a result of that. If it's a result of anything,
yeah. And I mean, last year they went a few 5 weeks to have a premium live event as well, so it did surprise me these ones were so close to each other. But you honestly might be bang on. That's actually the best explanation I've heard from it so far. But Anthony, what's your thoughts on it? Does it bother you to see them kind of ignoring the brand split to a degree already?
I think with the brand split, they do need to be distinct, and that's always been the problem. Every time they've done this brand split, they'll do it for a little bit, and then all of a sudden everything gets mixed again. So I think the reasoning behind it, and again, this is me speculating, they may have looked at this, like Clark said, they probably didn't exactly have a full plan on this, and went, you know what? We want to make this world title a big deal. So, and again, we don't know who's in these qualifying in these matches, correct? We don't know the names.
No, we don't. We don't know any names yet.
So maybe they're going to try to get real big names to make it seem like a bigger deal, so that it builds some prestige to the title. Like, Drew might win this, or somebody from Raw, or somebody from SmackDown. I think that might be the logic behind it. It also may contribute because Roman's really not on SmackDown, so maybe it helps SmackDown a little too, because they don't really they have a world champion, but not a world champion there. So that may help with that. As far as Cody, I know, the speculation. I know I've had this conversation with both of you, at least off air. Cody winning that title doesn't finish the story.
No,
there's no historical tie to that. The only title that has tied to it is the one that's on Roman's shoulder, the WWE Championship. That's the one that's tied to Dusty. So realistically, if this does drag out to, let's say, WrestleMania 40, like Clark has suggested, possibly the Rocky theme, I mentioned to you, Ben, if Cody does end up winning this title, I have an idea for a fantasy booking to get us there, even with Cody with the temporary title for the time being, to build momentum for it. But I think that's the direction it's going to go. I would think the front runner is probably either Cody or Seth at this point to be the inaugural champion. Just guessing. Assuming Seth's able to get past Omos in the match that nobody wants.
I'm not even going to lie to you, Anthony. I completely forgotten about that match. I forgot that it was going to happen until you just mentioned it. That's how forgettable it is. They haven't even tried to build it up, which is actually the funniest part. They've not even tried to give it a build.
You mean the match that they booked with no logical reason that they haven't justified at all? Yeah, that match.
It makes no sense, and it really does seem like Omos is now just going to be drifting between brands as a free agent, because that is what MVP has negotiated, where he just does he faces a big star at every pay-per-view and loses, or premium live event, sorry.
I'm not trying to be that guy, but what did Seth Rollins do wrong? How did he
That's $1 million question, isn't it?
I'm dead serious, because he got the gown of the century. We all saw the exchange with Becky Lynch.
The WrestleMania,
and that's awesome against Logan. But dude, what did he do wrong? Like the last 2 years, who did Seth make mad? That is my biggest question. I want to know what Seth, because he's been excellent in every slot you've plugged him into. He's fit, square pegs and round holes if he has to. But at the end of the day, what did Seth do? I want to know.
Just look at the entrance. That crowd sang every lyric of that song through an entire commercial break on Raw. Not to mention Mania. I mean, and it's everywhere they go. They sing his song.
They absolutely do. But one thing which I do want to point out is when Triple H mentioned the World Championship today and mentioned this tournament, the crowd started chanting Seth Rollins. No, they not a theme, just chanting his name. And Triple H paused and did give a little bit of a smile, and then he So I mean, maybe he's just he's gonna let us all down, right? Because let's be real, Triple H hasn't been afraid to do that so far. He's done it with
which I actually respect that about him.
Yeah, I respect it too.
Stuff. Yeah. I respect
that. I
think
he might give this to Seth. I still think
WWE does have a history.
Choice. Yeah,
they do have a history of getting people on losing streaks, and then suddenly they win a title. They do have a history of that. They've done it before.
Seth's actually on a big winning streak though at the minute. That's one of the things he's got.
We don't know what happens tomorrow. that's the one thing.
But if he loses to Omos and then wins the title, that is not a championship match I want to see. But anyway, right, it's whatever it is right now. There's a lot they can do with this World Championship. There's a lot they can do with this tournament. And like I said, there's going to be 2 triple threat matches on Monday Night Raw this week, with then the winners facing each other in the main event of Raw. Then they're going to do the exact same thing on SmackDown. So it's actually very similar. Apart from I'm not sure if it was fatal always then to what they did in 2016 with the Universal Championship. And that was only on Raw. But I actually think it was triple threat. I think they did 2 triple threat matches, and then the same night on Raw, they then did that's not even. Yeah, that's right. That is right. They then did that, and then the winner faced Seth Rollins. That is correct. So Finn Balor won everything
Yeah.
that night and then faced Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, of course, for the Universal title. And I was a big fan of that when it happened, so I don't mind seeing this again. But why SmackDown needs to be involved, I have no clue, which is why I guess the Cody Rhodes speculation is starting to take over. But Clark, to your point, perhaps it is a case where they just don't have much time to build it, so they want to use both shows. Or potentially it's that a Fox are like, well, there's a World Championship tournament and we're not involved. Hang on a second. Roman Reigns isn't even on most weeks. And yeah, we still don't know if Roman's going to be at Night of Champions. I mean, if he doesn't defend it in 2 pay-per-views in a row, that's really not great. But what we do now know is that he is advertised for Money in the Bank. So he's seemingly going to be defending it there. And Drew McIntyre's been pulled, but I'm sure we'll talk about that on Mailbag Monday or something. But I want to now move on to Friday night SmackDown 2 night, where Cody Rhodes wants to talk to us about something. He's going to come down to the ring, he's going to get a mic, and he's going to go, Puerto Rico, what do you want to talk about? I know, obviously, he's been trying to get this line over, and it is over to a degree, but it's he's saying it like twice a week at this point. But anyway, Cody Rhodes is going to talk to us, and I really, really, really want him to be annoyed that he is on a different brand to Roman Reigns, because it's not something that he's properly, fully addressed yet. He addressed it in about a sentence in a backstage thing on Raw, but I want him to properly address it tonight. I want him to seem slightly annoyed that he's on a different brand to Roman Reigns and stuff. Talk about how he's not going to be on SmackDown for a very long time now, but then say, but we got more important things to worry about right now, and that is Brock Lesnar. And then, of course, build up this Brock Lesnar match, because Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar is, of course, a blockbuster match. Without a build, it could sell on its own, but even still, if you ignore the beatdown right at the start, there hasn't really been that much of a great build for this feud, right? It's just been brawls. It's not been, or Cody doing a promo where he's not even fully addressed it at times. But regardless, like I did just say, Cody Rhodes sells no matter what. But Anthony, do you think, Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar would sell no matter what. But Anthony, do you think this match has been built properly, or would you like this to perhaps just be the first meeting between the two and they run it back in Saudi Arabia?
Honestly, I actually do like the build in the sense of Brock destroying Cody, and then Cody trying to get his hands on Brock and keep getting prevented from actually getting his hands on him. He got one shot on him this last Monday. I actually like that. I mean, realistically, you're building up this. Cody's technically everyone's the underdog against Brock.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of the David versus Goliath type thing, and he wants to get his hands on Brock, and Brock's just laughing at him because security's holding Cody back. As far as what Cody says tonight, I think it would probably be something in the lines of, because I was drafted to Raw, the story is delayed, but it will be finished one day. I will be coming for you, Roman, and I will be coming for the WWE Championship at some point. Like, I think that's the logic. He said that in an interview outside of WWE, which, like I said, the story's not finished with that world title.
No.
The story is only done when he wins the WWE Championship. That's the one that the story started in September of 1977. So that's the one. But I think you got to put them on separate brands. If you are dragging this out to WrestleMania 40, you put them on separate brands. They did it for a short time, but Ray and Dom, they put them on separate brands because they wanted to drag it to Mania. They couldn't do it if they were on the same brand.
Yeah.
So I think
that is a good point.
I think that's the logic behind it. I mean, if you look back, Cena and Orton were on separate brands when they were first starting out because they didn't want them touching until they were ready. I have a feeling that's where this is going.
Yeah. No, I think you could well be right there. I mean, the thing is, how do they get there? How do they get Cody Rhodes back over there?
I have an idea for that.
But probably isn't. Yeah, I know you have an idea, and that includes Cody winning the championship. But I really did actually like how you explained the Cody Brock storyline, right? About, Cody trying to get his hands on Brock. But the thing is, I just don't think they built it up for long enough. I know, obviously, a factor of that is they only had, so many weeks, right? But it was only really 1 week where Cody wasn't able to get his hands on Brock before then Cody, 1 week of Brock being there, before Cody could actually then get his hand, like one shot on Brock, and then they pulled away again. But like I said, Cody Brock on its own sells because it's a blockbuster match. But what about you, Clark? Do you think this should just be the first match between the two, and then they do some gimmick match or something, a Night of Champions, or even Money in the Bank?
I think they got to figure this out as a whole. And I'll go back to one of the things you talked about, like the, hey, so what do you want to talk about thing? I get it. It's a clever line, but does it sound like something a babyface would say? And then he goes into like a 7-minute promo about his feelings. There's a clear disconnect for me. And that's why I don't think they were able to finish the story at Mania. I think that's one of the major reasons. Is if you look at the way it's been delivered, it's the story on paper. It's not the delivery that is so heartwarming and such a big deal. And I want to see a Cody Rhodes that isn't trying to talk to the fans and soak it up that he's being cheered so loudly with his little tagline. And I want to see a Cody Rhodes that's upset about Brock Lesnar. Why is he not furious? Why would you agree to tag with the guy that attacked you and he's not off his rocker upset? That's what a babyface should look like. He's trying to defend his honor and everyone's honor. I can't believe I was so dumb to agree to tag with Brock Lesnar and he would attack me. And I let you guys down there too, right? He apologized about the Roman Reigns thing. Apologize about that. You agreed with Brock. You thought you trusted Brock Lesnar. That's where you let us down. We got no main event at Raw. It was awesome. I loved the way it went down as a storyteller and one removed. But as a fan, we got no main event. That's what you should apologize for. We got an all-time classic main event at Mania Night 2. The Raw after Mania, we got an attack because you agreed with a guy that clearly you couldn't trust. And that story hasn't even been sniffed. We haven't smelled it once. It's, what do you want to talk about? And then it's Cody's feelings for 7 minutes. And it's every week. And it's the same stuff. And that's not a guy in his alligator shoes and his nice suits and his tie clip that I want to root for. And I want to root for Cody in my heart. But at the end of the day, every time he goes out there and does this same promo, yes, it lands in the audience and the in-house audience loves it. And on the internet, we eat it up like, oh, Cody's on fire and stuff. But there's an end of this road because at some point he's either got to get his butt kicked or he's got to kick someone's butt. I want to see emotion in regards to he attacked me. I was focused on, I would love it if he third party brings in the Roman Reigns part of it and the separate brands part of it and does the, man, he attacked me. I was so distracted the last few weeks. I haven't even had the time to think about the fact that I can't go after that title I wanted from Roman Reigns. I would die for that. That would be amazing. That's what he should do. And it'd be all time.
Yeah.
But if he's going to come out and do the woe is me in his nice shoes and his nice belt and his nice tie clip, and what do you want to talk about? And by the way, what do you want to talk about? It's redundant. He's going to talk about whatever the hell he wants to talk about. It's very simple. Yeah. And as much as I love great catchphrases in wrestling, and I'm not saying it's a bad one, it doesn't fit. Knock it off.
It kind of is getting repetitive quite quickly.
Just knock it off. Poindexter, like that's how I felt about it, at least.
And I mean, I love Cody Rhodes on the mic. He's absolutely tremendous on the mic, but the issue is his promos are now getting a bit repetitive, right? And I'm starting to feel a little bit of the same way. There's some similarities now to how I kind of felt with some of Bray Wyatt's promos when he came back, where it was very, very repetitive. I mean, the difference was here that I'm understanding what Cody's saying, and I didn't understand most what Bray said. But it's the same thing with the same promo week in, week out, more or less, right? And I worry that the fans might end up turning on him if that does continue, which then might result in him not being able to finish the story. I just think they need to do something, and I don't particularly even know what that something is. But we're going to talk about, of course, tomorrow. If we think it's going to be Cody or Brock who will get the victory. But, Anthony, you're not on tomorrow's show, so I'll ask you right now, do you think Cody will get the victory of Brock Lesnar this Saturday
I
at
think
Backlash?
I think it depends on whether or not this is dragged out to a couple matches or this is a one-off. If it's a one-off, yeah, I think they're probably gonna give it to Cody. If it's not a one-off, then he may not win it. I think he probably needs the win more than Brock does. If we're just looking at it from the storyline standpoint, he lost to Roman, the revenge type thing. But the question is whether or not Brock's in this for a couple pay-per-views or a couple events, or if this is no, I'm out till SummerSlam or whatever. We don't know. We don't know what Brock's story is. We don't know if he re-signed. We have no idea. I mean, the speculation going into that Raw after Mania was Brock's contract was up the night before when he beat Omos, because his contract's always up at Mania.
Yeah.
So that's the question. The question is whether or not Brock's there, and we're not going to know because Brock keeps it. Unless WWE makes an official announcement, we're not going to know.
No, we really won't, because he is very secretive. But I mean, the fact that Brock did turn heel for this, he got rid of his super over, more, I guess, real life Brock gimmick to go to this Undertaker Brock gimmick is what everybody's calling it.
I think real life Brock is both.
That's true. It'll be a mix of both. However he wakes up in the morning. But the thing is, because he's turned heel for this, I'm kind of thinking there'll be a couple of matches. And as long as Cody wins the feud, and the feud doesn't feel repetitive at any point, which I don't think it should, because like I just said, it doesn't feel like it's been built that much yet. I think they have a lot of stuff they can do. I don't think it's bad Cody losing now, because like I said, they've got to make sure. They've got to make him look strong all the way to next Mania if they are doing Reigns versus Cody again. But they've also got to make sure the fans don't turn on him. And we know WWE fans just time and time again, they end up turning on baby faces when you start to build them over a long period of time. It's something which is building a baby face might be the hardest thing in this day and age.
Difficult thing I think in the industry by far.
Yeah,
by far.
It's so difficult.
It's so hard to do.
They got to figure out a way to make sure fans stay on the side of Cody Rhodes. And by the way, as of this moment, I'm not worried about it.
Look at the merch sales. Look at the merch sales.
No doubt.
They're insane for him. So he'll be fine, at least for now.
Yeah. And I hope it stays that way, because I'm sick of them turning on baby faces. But anyway, let's move on to the next thing now. And let's talk about Bad Bunny, who of course will be taking on Damian Priest tomorrow in a match which quite a lot of people think might actually main event Backlash, because it main evented the press conference today. Bad Bunny, of course, from Puerto Rico. He's super over there. He was super over in the press conference today. Damian Priest took him out during the press conference today as well. So yeah, it's very much a heated feud between the two. And if you told me a couple of years ago that a celebrity might be main eventing a pay-per-view in WWE, I would not be happy about it in the slightest. But Bad Bunny, same with Logan Paul, they both put a lot of training and hard work into preparing for these matches. So honestly, I wouldn't mind it that much. They built the feud with the Judgment Day, well, specifically Damian Priest, quite well. Of course, they tagged together before as well. There's a lot of links between the two. But Clark, do you think they should main event the show?
No, I think that it's awesome that they're on the show, but I would prefer that they don't, only because I don't think they can possibly live up to some of the other action on the card. I understand we've seen excellent things out of Bad Bunny in every appearance he's made. The Destroyer on the outside is unforgettable and all of that, but they cannot put on the match of the night, and the show will be stolen. The show will be stolen on the undercard if this match main events. And that to me, I think would devalue Bad Bunny's appearance. And the last thing I would want on the island of Puerto Rico, so cool, and him being such a huge artist and so gigantic culturally on Puerto Rico, for him to have any kind of criticism coming out of this match with Damian Priest and putting it in the main event slot, I think is too much pressure and unfair for a guy that I know he's poured his heart and soul into the training, and he really does care. He's taking it seriously. My mind is blown by what he's done this far, but strapping it up in the main event, last to go on your home on the island with that crowd and everything. If one thing goes wrong, it will be the story. It will be the story coming out of Backlash. If there's one obvious mistake, one obvious botch, one slow moment, a freak injury, anything like that that can happen with someone who isn't performing day in and day out, bell to bell, in the ring, running the ropes, doing all of that. And that's no knock on Bad Bunny. I can't emphasize that enough. I really do respect how much work he's put into this, but I think that is a horrible idea to slot them in the main event, because it just leaves too much room for, number one, even if they put on a really good match and there's another one that steals the show, that will be the story, is that the main event didn't live up. If there's any botch, like I said before, then we're in trouble on that too. Take the pressure off on that. Send him out of the gates. Biggest pop of all time. Send out Damian and then Bad Bunny, and boom, the big roar, curtain jerk them is what I would say. Absolutely no question. First match out. That's the way I would book it if it was my choice. If I, as Bully Ray likes to say, if I had the pencil, send him out first and let Damian pull the curtain back with his ties, and then Bad Bunny next, because you'll get a mild pop and some boos, and then you'll get explosion. And then the show's off and running, and it almost doesn't matter how the match goes, because the energy will be so high at the beginning of the show that it almost won't matter how the match goes, because the pop for Bad Bunny's entrance will be blow the roof off the place.
Yeah.
And it will be off and running. So no matter what happens, the pressure's off there. It's the exact opposite of if you put him in the main event. And I think that match is equally as valuable to a card as the main event, which is something we don't talk about often from a booking perspective. And that's where, if it was my choice, I say right out of the gates, Priest first entrance, boo, and then Bad Bunny, blow the roof off the building, pyro it to death. I mean, pyro on pyro on pyro, and just explosion in the entrance to hopefully maybe his most popular song, and get the whole crowd singing it.
Yeah.
To start the show that way, I think that
huge,
is the route that I would go if I had the choice.
The issue that I would have with that, right? Well, the concern that I would have with that, especially because we know it's going to be an explosion of a pop, regardless of when it is on the show for Bad Bunny, is that because the pop would be so big, I'd be worried that for the middle of the show, the crowd might be a little tired out from that until they get back up to the main event and Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar.
So I completely understand where you're coming from, but there's always lulls in shows, almost no matter what, right? And think about the fact that they played Cena's music and the size of that pop at Mania, which we were just at merely a month ago, right?
Yeah.
Night one, they played.
It's going to be the Bad Bunny is going to be even bigger.
Well, and especially in a roofed, isolated arena.
Yeah,
it's
going to be crazy.
And that'll reverberate, right?
Yeah.
It'll be less fans, but more explosive. But at the end of the day, that Cena pop, right? It didn't wear anybody out. It didn't.
No, it didn't.
You know what I mean? It was a great way to start the show because it was a massive pop. You're going to get massive pop for the start of the show anyway. I'd be more worried about it being worn out if I wasn't so actually comfortable with the rest of the card. I do think there's pick-me-ups along the way that, right, you can sustain the energy. It's nice to set that level out of the gates. It's hard because, by the way, if it's, and it won't be in Puerto Rico, but if it's quieter along the way, building to a crescendo, then you absolutely must deliver. Right. So if the crowd action and the crowd's interest level builds from a low level to a high level at the end, and those entrances are the biggest pop of the night thus far at that point for the main event, that Bad Bunny entrance, now all of a sudden you have to stay there no matter what. Otherwise you're losing them in the main event, and that's a nightmare. You know, and by then you could also, that's where I'd be worried about fatigue. Are they ready? Is everybody ready still after a night of, because we've even discussed the last couple of days, Ben, on the show, both me and Anthony and me and Chaos discussed the Wembley show and how hot that crowd will be in the UK, right? Because of the nature of the fact that it's kind of a one-off. You don't
that
get
that
a
is
show
true. The
in
fact
Puerto
that it's
Rico.
in Puerto Rico means the crowd is unlikely to die.
Yeah.
That is a great point. What about you, Anthony? Where do you think it should be on the card?
I think the main event probably should be Cody and Brock. I could see that why they wouldn't do that, because if Cody is going to lose this match, and as hot as the Puerto Rican crowd is, which I think it's going to be a very hot crowd throughout the entire show because they don't get these shows that often, I would think they would want to send them home happy. So I think the only reason you would put Bad Bunny and Priest in the main event slot is if you want to send them home happy with Bunny winning. I agree with Clark. Either Brock and Cody need to open the show or close the show. Same thing with Bad Bunny and Priest. They need to be the bookends of this show. You're either you have to hit it off hot and you need to close hot. So those are going to be the bookend matches, I think, going into the show. I mean, realistically, they're the two matches that people want to see. They're the two, at least for me. Like, if you ask me what else is on the card, I don't know. I legit don't really of the almost Rollins thing, which is going to be a cluster mess. But we know that's not main eventing. So, like, realistically, I would the Bad Bunny thing. I could see them main eventing it. I don't necessarily think it's a smart move to do. Other than trying to capitalize on the hot crowd. I mean, injuries can happen at any point in the card, especially with somebody that's training for a couple weeks versus somebody who's been training for years. The pressure's on Priest in this situation to make sure the biggest recording star does not get injured on him. Like, I mean, realistically, there was heat when he put him through the table. Wasn't there when Bunny took a bad bounce on the table?
Oh yeah, there was. Yes, yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure there, but I realistically, Cody and Brock should be the main event.
Yeah, and the other matches for Backlash. I mean, the big one is, this is the ones I think will actually open the show, and I think Bad Bunny will go co-main. Is the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Matt Riddle versus the Usos and Solo Sikoa, but then there's also Bianca Belair and Io Sky. Rhea Ripley versus Zelina Vega, Rollins versus Omos, like we said, and then Theory versus Reed versus Lashley for the United States Championship. So yeah, it's a decent card, but the stories, they aren't that massive so far. But let's go back to SmackDown. And tonight, the OC will be taking on the Viking Raiders, and that's Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows of the OC will be taking on the Viking Raiders. And I said this last week, but I'll say it again. Anderson and Gallows are jobbers when Styles isn't there, and then are suddenly one of the most unstoppable tag teams when Styles is back. It's almost comedic every time how it changes, but I'd be presuming the OC do get the victory today. But then the other match which we have today, which I'm going to be completely honest here, I actually didn't even realize that it was booked for SmackDown this week, because I presume that they were going to carry this out a bit longer. And that is Shinsuke Nakamura versus Karrion Kross. It's Nakamura's return feud. They've been building it up. And it's also two people who I thought actually could work quite well together. A story which I thought had quite a bit of potential. And they're just finishing it. And I understand the draft and all that. I believe they're on separate brands now. But it does just feel a little rushed, doesn't it? I don't understand why they were going to start this storyline if they were going to be on separate brands. What about you, Anthony? Are you disappointed that this storyline has been so short? Did you think it had more potential?
I think my honest guess is they didn't know where they were going. I think when they started this thing, they weren't sure whether or not they were going to separate brands or not. That would be my guess, because I don't necessarily think Nakamura and Kross are particularly high on their list just based on how they're booked. Yeah. So I don't really think long-term plan-wise. I mean, if I'm going to guess, Nakamura might be somebody that they're more interested in doing stuff with, just based on how Triple H booked him in NXT. Kross has really had a difficult time finding himself, and this is something I've said on the show, and other people have said it as well. I kind of have a feeling Scarlett's more over than he is, and I have very much Sable, Mark Marrow vibes every time I see them that Scarlett's the star, not Cross.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
with
I mean,
you there,
honestly,
man. He's got to ditch the hair.
the hair, he just doesn't look as menacing with the hair. It kind
Yeah.
of ruins his entire thing.
It's
I
like non-threatening.
I bang on agree with you there, Anthony. And yeah, I've double checked, and yeah, I was right that Karrion Kross is in SmackDown, Nakamura was on Raw, so on separate brands.
When I'll say
Well,
this, are they going to get a time machine back to 2021 when it would have mattered? Or is this match happening this week? That's the worst part about it.
But come on, it's Nakamura's return feud. It
I
does have some
know.
potential, and they've just at least just put them on the same brand. Like they're mid-feud, put them on the same brand. Screw it, or work it out beforehand. I just don't think it's. I do agree, Anthony. I bang on agree with you. I think that is exactly what's happened here. I don't think they knew which brand either of them would be on, but it's lazy. Work it out. It's what you're paid to do. I'm not being funny here, but it is just stupid and it annoys me because this storyline had potential. It had potential to get Karrion Kross over. It had potential to get Shinsuke Nakamura back into the near the main event scene again if this feud was really good. And they're just finishing it a few weeks in, literally like 3 weeks in, on an episode of SmackDown. I don't like it, but what are your thoughts, Clark?
Yeah, I'm confused. I mean, I kind of interrupted there and said kind of what I thought, which was, are we taking a time machine back to when it would have mattered? And that'd be awesome, right? We get Bald Cross and we get Shinsuke at his height. This match would be sweet in a video game time machine. But for this week's SmackDown, it doesn't feel as valuable as the way it was booked. I mean, it sucks. Karrion Kross should be a big deal. Shinsuke Nakamura should be a big, big deal. Like, what is going on here? That this is like turned into what it is. They're not even on the same brand. This is just going to be a what? Are we going to get a Kinshasa and then it gets choked out and then they go their separate ways? Where do we go from here? What are they both doing? The whole thing disappointing to me, to say the least.
Yeah, and it had potential. It truly did. It had potential from a storyline perspective. It could have made us care about both men again. And I'm going to be honest, Shinsuke Nakamura has been away for a while. I think a lot of people do care about him. But it could have made us care about Cross again and could have really established Shinsuke Nakamura in that upper, the upper card. I don't know. I mean, somebody's going to have to take the loss here, though. And then that's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Nakamura's just returned, so it's surely going to be Cross. But I think Cross is just
choke him out.
Cross is going to probably take the loss. That'd be my guess.
And he'll be done.
Then
I mean,
what? How can you put the loss on Cross?
He'll shave his hair, and then he's suddenly amazing again. Maybe he'll figure it out.
I hear where you're coming from, Anthony, but I mean, dude, I get how Shinsuke can come back from another loss. How the heck does Cross come back from a Kinshasa
Cross is
loss?
literally at the bottom at this point. I think I agree. He's going to have to snap. Like he's going to have to go on a rampage, take people out, shave the head, do stuff.
Doesn't hurt enough people.
He's going to have to because right now no one cares. No one cares about Karrion Kross.
And it's all the hair. He needs to get rid of that. No, he really isn't right. He's been booked poorly. He has. And
like
the hair
people have been overfilling the timers. Like there's just so much sand in there, they never run out.
They were trying to sell them at
I feel like that's the biggest mistake. Oh no, I know, but even then, like there's just too much sand. It's too much time. It's a too long of a timer. They're not. They need to shorten the time.
I mean, truthfully, I don't think either man can take a loss. Shinsuke Nakamura has just come back from injury. If they want to be building him back up into the main event scene, perhaps for this new World Heavyweight Championship, then even though I don't think he'll win it, maybe he could be a finalist or something, perhaps.
At least he serves.
But I feel like Shinsuke Nakamura is somebody who that it could be, pushed into that upper main event card. But if he takes this loss, then it's not good for him. But like you said, Clark, Karrion can't take a loss. It's just a complete and utter mess. They don't know what they're doing. The draft's gone to shatters a weekend, and I get called a WWE mark most of the time. And look at what I'm saying about it. It's absolutely ludicrous. But on that note, guys, we're getting into the end of the show. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, then please rate us 5 stars and give us a follow. It really helps us out. We'll be back here tomorrow, the same time, for our Backlash predictions. Hopefully tonight's SmackDown is a good show, and I'm sure it will be with that great Puerto Rico crowd. But thank you guys for watching. We will see you tomorrow. Thank you, guys.